Our last presenter has what typically is a difficult task. We've had so much rich discussion and great presentations, and he has the wrap-up responsibilities here. But he's up to it. Sir Gordon Conway has been a part of our advisory group consistently, I think, from the beginning, or nearly so. He always has a talent for cogent, crucial kind of comments and then interpreting and building on them. This is Sir Gordon Conway. He is currently the Professor of International Development at Imperial College, London, Director of the Agriculture and Impact Program. Prior to this, Gordon served in many other roles, important all, including President of the Rockefeller Foundation, the Chief Scientific Officer for the United Kingdom's Department of International Development, equivalent to our USAID. Please join me in welcoming Gordon to the stage to help us wrap up on what we've heard throughout the day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I was rushing up here because I wanted to get up before everybody left. I'm standing in for Catherine Bettini. I love her to bits, but I'm not her, and I can't emulate her. I'm going to start with a short preamble, and then I'm going to go to 3 points, because that's what you have to do here at the Chicago Council. Everything is in terms of 3 points. We are at the beginning of a major agricultural transformation. It's bigger, more ambitious, and more complex than the Green Revolution. And it affects all of us throughout the world, this transformation. Particularly affects, of course, emerging countries and developing countries, and I'm going to focus on Africa because that's what I know best about. And we all know what its features are. We've heard it time and time again today, but let me just go through them fast. There's a growing urban population, growing urban demand for more food, more nutritious food, more varied food, more choice of food. And all of this, as Tom Reardon has said, provides opportunities for farmers. But there are big challenges in this transformation. One, of course, is climate change. We're on track to go to a world that's 3 degrees above pre-industrial. That's where we're headed. Forget the rhetoric about 2 degrees. We're going to end up with 3 degrees, and that is going to be devastating for agriculture throughout the world. There's a growing population. There's a huge growth in young people, particularly in Africa. And we're seeing increasing soil erosion. In sub-Saharan Africa, over a quarter of the land surface is seriously degraded. This transformation in Africa in particular is going to be done by smallholder farmers. There will be some consolidation, but if Africa is to achieve food security in the next 2 decades, it's going to be the smallholder farmers that do it. And how can they be helped to do this? I'm just going to talk about 2 of the keys to this. There are many more that have been talked about during the day. First of all is technology. We're going to increasingly rely on what's been called sustainable intensification, which means developing technologies that are appropriate for the particular place, the particular time, the particular farmers, the particular cultures. Includes ecological technologies, includes genetic technologies. It includes small-scale mechanization, it includes small-scale storage, it includes small-scale water harvesting, it includes irrigation, it includes rebuilding soil carbon with various technologies. It includes climate-smart technologies that will deal with both adaptation and mitigation together. And it will involve precision farming, not just industrial precision farming, but precision farming in developing countries, things like microdosing and drip irrigation. And most important, as we keep hearing today, it'll involve digital technology. And I want to just do a quick plug for the book that I've recently produced with Kofi Annan and Sam Dryden. It's digital African farmers in the digital age, and you can download it from Foreign Affairs. And the other point about sustainable intensification is that it's about connecting farmers to value chains, and that's what we've heard about all along. But I want to use the word value chain, not supply chain. Supply chain is only a part of a value chain. A value chain starts at research and development, goes through farmers, goes to warehouses, agribusiness, moves up to markets with a regional or national or international, and goes through to urban demand, and goes through to individual people where the physiology occurs. So you go all the way from genes at the R&D to genes in human beings. That's the value chain. And the big question is, how do the farmers get more of the value? How is it inclusive? What's an inclusive value chain, and what's a resilient value chain? Second, we have to provide finance. We need finance for roads, for irrigation, for power, and all of that has to be integrated. We heard that today too. There's plenty of money out there. There are tons of money out there. The climate funds have got billions of dollars. Very little of that ever gets to Africa at the moment, and none of it gets to smallholder farmers. There are plenty of wealthy banks in Africa, but they won't loan to farmers because they say they're too risky. The one approach there that seems to be working is to provide guarantees. As many of you will know, that Akina Adesina, as a Minister of Agriculture in Nigeria, got the Central Bank of Nigeria to come up with $300 million of backing for the banks of Nigeria to invest in agriculture. And of course, when they invest in agriculture, they discover the farmers pay back. Farmers are probably the best bet you can ever put your money into. But what we also need is finances for smallholders. That's the difficult thing. Finances for smallholder inputs. And One Acre Fund is very good at that. And I was in Rwanda just recently. I saw their work on providing inputs on a sustainable basis, a sustainable financial basis, to the farmers. It's over 400,000 farmers they're doing this for in East Africa. And also finances for entrepreneurs. We heard about Alimulu's 10,000 entrepreneurs that he's been able to stimulate and create. Again, in Rwanda, I saw the work of TechnoServe. Extraordinary activities there of generating entrepreneurs. It was a bit like sitting in Silicon Valley, surrounded by young Rwandans out of high school who'd come together, in one case, a group of 12 of them, to grow and market seed potatoes. The key, I think, to getting funding in the hands of small farmers is farmer associations. You can't loan to individual farmers in Africa, but you can loan to farmer associations. My third point is something quite different. I think an important point for all of us, and particularly for the US government, is the link between food security and international security. If farmers or villages can't produce enough food or access enough food, it's likely to lead to civil strife. And the civil strife will create an environment in which less food can be produced. And so you've created a vicious circle. I've been given an extra minute by Alesha. You've got a vicious circle there. In Egypt, I was in Egypt last week, and there were bread riots in 2008, and there were bread shortages in Egypt just before Mubarak was deposed. There's a lot of that going on. But what is interesting is that those, interesting but frightening actually, is that those food security vicious circles are within larger vicious circles, where the civil strife doesn't come from food security, it comes from sectarian strife, or it comes from counterproductive Western interventions. And that in turn creates food crises. And you get another vicious cycle created. And as that circle is created, people spin off that circle. They become immigrants. Last week, 400 of them died on a boat going from Libya across to Europe. And into Europe, they become immigrants. And that in turn feeds in various ways more civil strife, more chaos. And so from food security and from those kind of vicious circles, you create what are effectively international security issues, where the United States has a role. We keep talking about the leadership of the United States. I think that's absolutely crucial. But one of the areas it's most crucial is trying to sort out these crises as they're affecting us today. Finally, I just want to say something to the young people in the audience. I want, first of all, to apologize. I and my generation, it's an intergenerational apology. I and my generation have been spending our lifetime working on food security. I've been doing it since 1960, for goodness sake. And we've achieved a lot, but not what we expected to achieve. We would have thought that by now we could hand over this world to all you young people saying, we've got a beautiful food secure world, you can go enjoy yourselves. But what I want to say is the challenges I've talked about, the challenges we've heard here, are exciting challenges. They're demanding challenges of your intellects and of your work and of your dedication. And they can be just as exciting as the alternative. And what I want to say to you is, go to it, and good luck. Thank you.
Thank you, Gordon. I always appreciate hearing your wrap-up's always an interesting take, and appreciate the challenge also to the community to pick up. So I'm going to close with a few thank yous. If you wouldn't mind holding your applause to the end, that'll make sure we can get through this. I know many of you, we really appreciate you sticking around all day and have things to do here. So just to get started, we want to thank the keynotes, the moderators, the discussants for bringing such rich conversation to you all today. They have been preparing for this conversation over the course of the past month, if not longer, in fact, and I think that they brought a great set of discussions to the room. Second, we want to thank our funders. We couldn't be here if we didn't have generous support from a number of organizations represented here today. First, we'd like to thank our lead sponsor, Abbott. We also would like to express our thanks to our supporting sponsor, Cargill. We were also supported at the next generation level, which I'll talk about in a second, by DuPont, Land O'Lakes, and RTI International. And the Stewart Family Foundation also was generous in supporting a portion of the cost of the development of the report. And then, as mentioned earlier by several folks, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation has been a longtime supporter as well of this work. So we're very grateful to all of our sponsors for making this possible. Next, we'd like to thank our partners. We had about 30 civil society partners. Many of them were on the stage today. Many of them were tweeting to get this conversation out across the globe and provided content and videos and a lot of the conversation. So we thank you for donating that time and your guidance. I mentioned the Next Gen support earlier. Some of you hopefully have had a chance to talk to our 19 Next Gen delegates that have been in the room. These are bachelor's, master's, and PhD students who are coming from a number of universities. We've really enjoyed their questions and engagement and thank them for coming. And we've also had social media ambassadors who have been tweeting, some of whom are in the room, some of them are around the world, again, trying to make sure this conversation is spreading. I'd like to thank the Chicago Council staff. You've met many of them. There are several behind the stage as well, and many that are back in Chicago and in other parts of this building supporting this work. They've been supported also by CMP, and Marjorie in particular, we want to say thank you. And then finally, want to thank our co-chairs for the leadership role they've provided over the past year, as well as the advisory board. We're so thankful, Doug Bereuter and Dan Glickman. And if you could just join me in thanking all the sponsors, speakers, funders, everyone, we really appreciate it. And I'll ask Doug to join me on stage.
Just a brief continuation of thank yous. Thanks to all of you for your interest in this important subject. Thank you for all that you have done in agricultural development and food security, or that you will do. We're glad that you are out there working to take on this tremendous challenge. So on behalf of Dan Glickman and myself, we want to thank you for your interest, for your activity. And I want to say that if you saw or heard things today that you'd like to see further investigated or more attention to, let the Chicago Council know about that. And we'll see what we can sort out of that with the help of a great staff. Lisa Moon was directing the program the first half of this year. Alesha Black has very, very effectively stepped in and continued that. So a shout out to Lisa and to Alesha. And in the second row is Marcia Bouton. This wouldn't have started in 2007 and continued to this point today without Marshall's great effort as president of the Chicago Council on Global Affairs, and I wanted to recognize that fact. Thank you very much. Be safe. Come back, we hope, next year.